For years, WWE sold us a story we all accepted as fact. Dean Ambrose was done. His era was over. The bridge had burned so completely that we could never imagine seeing the Shield standing together in that ring again. Every interview, every appearance outside WWE seemed to confirm it. He left for AEW, reinvented himself as Jon Moxley, and built a career that made us believe there was no way back. And yet, last night at Crown Jewel 2025, WWE shattered that belief. What we thought was finished, what we mourned as a beautiful memory, turned out to be a masterfully executed long con. The moment the Sierra Hotel India Echo Lima Delta theme hit in Riyadh, and Dean Ambrose, or Jon Moxley, whichever you prefer, stepped through that curtain wearing tactical gear, alongside Roman Reigns, the wrestling world didn't just explode, it imploded. Social media crashed, fans lost their minds. And WWE pulled off a return so monumental that it might go down as the greatest in modern wrestling history. But this wasn't just a nostalgic pop for the crowd. It was deliberate psychological warfare on the fan base. WWE made us wait. They let us believe it was impossible. They let us think the Shield as a trio was gone forever. And then, at the exact perfect moment, they reminded us why they are masters at creating unforgettable moments. Roman Reigns, cornered and overwhelmed. To truly appreciate the gravity of the Shield reunion, we need to go back to the chaos of Crown Jewel 2025. Roman Reigns stood in the center of the ring, battered and bloodied, facing what could only be described as an impossible situation. The bloodline had fractured. Solo Sikoa had risen as a dominant force with a new iteration of allies. Jacob Fatu was an unstoppable monster. Tamatanga and Tongawa added their brute strength. Even Zilla Fatu had joined the ranks. Roman was effectively outnumbered. 5-on-1 or 5-on-2 if you count the Yos desperately trying to help their cousin. Each strike Roman absorbed wasn't just punishment. It was a dismantling of his legacy. This wasn't the tribal chief at his peak, dominating the roster and controlling the narrative. This was Roman fighting for survival, fighting to reclaim his identity, fighting to protect the empire that had been slowly crumbling before our eyes. The beatdown was brutal. Roman's face was busted open. Jimmy Uso lay motionless outside the ring. Jey Uso had been thrown through a barricade. The new bloodline stood tall, and Solo Sikoa raised a chair for the final humiliating blow. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. This was it. Roman Reigns, the face of WWE, potentially humiliated in front of the world. The lights go out, silence before the storm, and then darkness. The lights went out. WWE fans have learned to anticipate surprises when the lights go dark, but this felt different. The silence was suffocating, almost palpable. After what felt like an eternity, a few haunting guitar riffs started to play. The build we've heard countless times, but never imagined hearing in a WWE ring again. Sierra, Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta. The crowd erupted like a seismic event. It was chaos in the arena, pandemonium on social media. But could it really be happening? Dean Ambrose, the man who left WWE in 2019, who went on to dominate AEW in Japan, who publicly declared he'd never return, was here. We all believed him when he left. He became Jon Moxley, the anti-WWE star who won AEW World Championships, held the IWGP United States title, delivered legendary matches against Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, and countless others. He had carved out a legacy independent of WWE. Yet here he was, standing at the top of the ramp in full Shield tactical gear. The vest, the combat pants, the boots, the whole package, reminding us why the Shield was so iconic. Dean Ambrose returns more than nostalgia. And this wasn't just the Dean Ambrose we knew. This wasn't the lunatic fringe, the moral compass of the Shield, the reckless wild card. This was Dean Ambrose evolved, battle-tested, scarred, and hardened by years of fighting all over the world. The look in his eyes told stories. The scars on his face whispered history. He had grown, evolved, and yet somehow he was back in his old home, standing shoulder to shoulder with his brother Roman Reigns, ready to pick up where they left off. Then, as if to complete the perfect moment, the arena saw the figure we've waited to see for years. Seth Rollins, the architect, the man who betrayed the Shield all those years ago. Charging down the ramp with that intensity we remembered, he completed the trio. Tactical gear, black vest, combat boots. The three men who changed WWE's landscape were finally together again. The pop from the crowd was indescribable. It was validation, not nostalgia. WWE had heard the fans, and more importantly, they delivered at the perfect time. Why this matters. Storytelling, redemption, and legacy. Dean Ambrose's return is significant on multiple levels. First, consider his departure from WWE in 2019. He left because the company was creatively stagnant for him. Storylines weren't clicking, and he was frustrated. He walked away with no negotiations, no extensions, just pure freedom. His move to AEW as Jon Moxley wasn't just a career shift. It was liberation. He became a global star, engaged in death matches, promos that felt raw and real, and established himself as a top-tier talent outside WWE. Everyone assumed he'd never return. The media wrote him off. Fans mourned his absence. And yet, WWE had been quietly working behind the scenes, negotiating for nearly a year. Triple H personally reached out, not Vince McMahon, and pitched a return that wasn't about being a mid-carder. It was about finishing the greatest faction story in WWE history. AEW fans, react. Betrayal or business. Naturally, AEW fans are furious. After all, Moxley became a symbol of independence, proof that you could leave WWE and succeed elsewhere. Some are calling him a sellout, others a traitor. But here's the thing. Jon Moxley doesn't owe AEW his career. He gave them 5 incredible years, established their credibility, delivered matches that defined a generation. If WWE offered a deal that was creatively fulfilling, financially insane, and long-term, can we really blame him? Roman Reigns' character. Arc. Coming full circle. For Roman Reigns, this reunion is pivotal. His tribal chief run was one of the most impressive heel arcs of modern wrestling. He unified titles, dominated the roster, and elevated others around him. But with the bloodline fracturing, Solo Sikoa's betrayal, and the rise of Jacob Fatu, Roman had been reduced to a man fighting for survival. The Shield's return isn't just about backup, it's about going back to his roots. Roman acknowledges that even a tribal chief sometimes needs his brothers. Seth Rollins' inclusion signals redemption and unity, completing the story arc of betrayal, growth, and reconciliation. The match. 3-headed monster in action. When the Shield hit the ring together, it was instantaneous chemistry. Roman with the Superman punch, Dean with dirty deeds, Seth with the curb stomp. Triple power bombs through tables, synchronized beatdowns, the iconic fist bump. It was like 2014 never ended. The Shield moved as one, and the crowd erupted with chants of, "This is awesome!" It wasn't just wrestling, it was cultural. Every faction in wrestling history had talent, but the Shield had unity. They were a 3-headed monster. Together, they transcended wrestling, became mainstream, and carried WWE into a new era.